The time 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Lakshman Fonseca and read by Tilani Pires. The government extends the visas of distressed Ukrainian tourists. Terrified Ukrainian men and women and children had sought underground safety. The European countries are set to impose flight bans for Russian airlines. The CEB is to issue a circular to formulate electricity-saving tips. The Minister of Energy says that 2 more diesel ships are due to arrive in Sri Lanka tomorrow. And on watchlight, permits for the sale of beer and wine at all hotels to boost local tourism. And on overseas news, fighting intensifies across Ukraine. The government is to consider providing financial relief to Ukraine tourists now in Sri Lanka. It is reported nearly 4,000 Ukrainian tourists currently in Sri Lanka are to be granted a visa extension owing to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranatunga said that the government has taken measures to extend the visas of Ukrainian tourists who are unable to return home. The decision has been taken at a meeting held with Minister Prasanna Ranatunga and the Immigration authorities today. He said that a proposal in this regard will be presented to the Cabinet during its weekly meeting tomorrow. The Tourism Ministry was also recommended to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to make proper methodology to assist tourists who do not have enough funds for an extended period. The Tourism Ministry has also recommended to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to make proper methodology to assist tourists who do not have enough funds for an extended period. The ministry is also discussed with hoteliers associations to see if hotel discounts could be provided and other forms of relief could be provided to Ukrainian tourists. The Ukrainian embassy in New Delhi had requested Sri Lanka to provide consular assistance by way of extending the visas of Ukrainian tourists staying here. Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had asked Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranatunga to submit a report by tomorrow on the safety and security of the tourists now in Sri Lanka. It is reported tourism officials were looking into ways of arranging flights for the stranded Ukrainian tourists to fly to Poland or Turkey. Russian airlines face a near-total airspace blockade to the country's west after an EU official said most European countries are set to impose flight bans. Finland, Denmark and Austria said today that they would implement bans with airspace curbs over Ukraine. Russian flights now have few route options for westbound journeys. Estonia, Latvia, Slovenia, Lithuania and Romania said they were also banning some flights from Russia. Russia has responded with tit-for-tat restrictions for many of the countries banning its flights. They joined Bulgaria, Poland and Czech Republic in implementing curbs, and Russia has banned flights in retaliation. Meanwhile, Russian-owned planes, including private jets, can no longer enter UK and Irish airspace. It was seen terrified men, women and children in Ukraine had sought safety inside an underground bunker, and the government maintained a 39-hour curfew to keep people off the streets. More than 150,000 Ukrainians fled to Poland, Moldova and other neighboring countries, and the United Nations warned the number could grow to 4 million if fighting escalates. However, President Vladimir Putin hasn't disclosed his ultimate plans, but Western officials believe he is determined to overthrow Ukraine's government and replace it with a regime of his own, redrawing the map of Europe and reviving Moscow's Cold War-era influence. In the meantime, the US pledged an additional $350 million in military assistance to Ukraine, including anti-tank weapons, body armor and small arms. Germany said it would send missiles and anti-tank weapons to the besieged country, that it would close its airspace to Russian planes. The CEB issued a circular to implement energy conservation among electricity consumers owing to issues in hydro reservoirs and thermal power stations. The CEB says it plans to increase solar penetration with a mechanism to be introduced in due course to address the increase in demand. The CEB's Distribution Coordination Committee has also issued a separate circular to formulate a separate mechanism to expedite commissioning of rooftop solar. The CEB added that it had also taken measures to print electricity-saving tips on the opposite side of electricity bills in all 3 languages. It also plans to distribute separate leaflets through consumer coordinators until then. The CEB vehicles attending to breakdowns and maintenance will also make announcements to increase public awareness. The CEB has also informed local authorities to switch off street lights on time and opt to help power-saving mode. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Minister of Energy says 2 more diesel ships are due to arrive in Sri Lanka tomorrow. The Secretary to the Ministry, KDR Olga, stated that one ship is carrying 28,500 metric tons of auto diesel and the other is carrying 9,000 metric tons of jet fuel. Moreover, she said another ship carrying 30,300 metric tons of auto diesel and 7,000 metric tons of super diesel is also due to arrive in Sri Lanka. The ships are arriving in Sri Lanka from Singapore. The Energy Ministry Secretary said, adding that arrangements are being made to pay for the ships with the assistance of the Central Bank. The Ministry further stated that a ship with 30,000 metric tons of fuel for power plants will arrive in Sri Lanka on March the 8th. That ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka announces that it has approved the request of the FEB for extended power cuts tomorrow. The Commission said that power cuts of 5 hours and 15 minutes will be imposed for areas under the groups P, Q, R, S, T, U, V and W. It added that this would be carried out under 2 phases with a power cut of 2 hours and 45 minutes. Meanwhile, power cuts of 4 hours and 40 minutes are to be imposed for areas under groups A, B and C. This will be executed under 2 phases with 2 hours and 40 minutes, the Commission added. That came to you on our segment Main News Story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
This is Watchlight. The government is to permit the sale of beer and wine at all hotels to boost local tourism. The Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority says the facility will be provided for guest houses and homestay facilities registered with the authority. A senior excise department official also said cabinet approval has been granted for the proposal. He said the proposal would enable the sale of soft liquor to tourists staying at low-budget guest houses which had no permission to serve beer or wine. He also said it would prevent local and foreign tourists consuming in public places such as beaches and parks and the illegal serving of liquor. That came to you in Watchlight. Coming up, World News. The World News headlines first. Fighting intensifies across Ukraine. Biden warns Russia will pay serious price. UNICEF boosting aid to children in Ukraine. Intense fighting is underway across Ukraine. Russian forces are bearing down on the capital as they attack cities and military bases around the country. The health minister says 198 Ukrainians have been killed and that number is likely to rise. A Ukrainian governmental organization posted footage on social media showing flames and smoke rising and spreading across the night sky, indicating the scale of explosions. There have so far been no reports of injuries caused by the blast. In the city of Lviv, near the Polish border, residents flee to basements every time an air defense siren goes off. A senior U.S. defense official estimates that more than 50% of Russian combat power arrayed along Ukraine's border has entered Ukraine. The U.S. President Joe Biden has indicated he is not sending U.S. forces to Ukraine to counter the Russian invasion. Ukrainian forces are battling Russian troops on the streets of Ukraine's second city, Kharkiv. According to local officials, Regional Governor Ole Sinegubov said lighter vehicles had entered the city. He had urged its 1.4 million residents to stay indoors. Media outlets in Ukraine say that Russian military blew up a pipeline in Kharkiv. The advance came after missiles rained down overnight. A 9-story residential tower was hit, emergency services said. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden has indicated he will not send U.S. forces to Ukraine to counter the Russian invasion, saying that it could lead to a war on a global scale. He also warned that Russia will have to pay a serious and lasting price for its actions. Biden made the remarks in an interview with a social media influencer released on Saturday. He acknowledged that no sanction can be expected to have an immediate effect, but said the economic and political sanctions imposed on Russia are the broadest sanctions in history. He pointed out that NATO is more unified than ever and that Russian President Vladimir Putin is producing the exact opposite effect that he intended. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council is set to meet on Sunday to vote on a request to hold an emergency special session of the 193-member General Assembly to discuss Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The UNICEF, the UN Children's Fund, is scaling up programs for millions of children in Ukraine threatened by Russia's invasion. As the deaths and injuries reported are growing, the dangers to civilians have risen exponentially. UNICEF Regional Director for Europe and Central Asia, Afshan Khan, warns the war is posing an immediate threat to Ukraine's 7.5 million children. UNICEF has been providing humanitarian assistance to millions of children and families in Ukraine for 8 years. The agency has been particularly active in the Russian-backed separatist regions of Donetsk and Luhansk in eastern Ukraine, where it has been trucking safe water to areas affected by the conflict. Back to the world news headlines. Fighting intensifies across Ukraine. Biden warns Russia will pay serious price. UNICEF boosting aid to children in Ukraine. That ends world news.
Development News is brought to you by Let's take coal out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
And on development news, a special passenger train will be operated between Kandy and Damodara from March 4th for tourists to view the upcountry. General Manager of Railways Dhammika Jasundara says that this is the first time in the history of Sri Lanka Railways that a tourist train added to a fleet on a regular schedule. He added the train will stop at St. Clair Falls, Great Western Railway Station, Elgin Falls Patipola, summit level, Idalgasinna Railway Station, Damodara Arch Bridge, Damodara Bridge and Tunnel, and near several special tunnels. That came to you in Development News.
Development News was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928. Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Sports news. Sri Lanka's longest-running big match, Battle of the Blues, played between Royal College Colombo and St. Thomas's College Mount Lavinia, will be played in July this year. It is reported this year's encounter, the 143rd Battle of the Blues, outside the usual period, to be held in July at the SSC. The school's source added, the dates are subject to confirmation as the last year's joint committee's tenure is coming to an end, and only once the new committee is appointed, the rest would be finalized. The Battle of the Blues, played for the DSN Nayaka Shield, finally went ahead in October last year, subsequent to a multiple stop-start journey. The title holders are currently the Thomians. That ends Sports News.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Macburton Private Limited has donated bathroom fittings and accessories to renovate the toilets of Colombo South Teaching Hospital in Kalbovilla recently. The donation to the teaching hospital was a part of Macburton Private Limited's latest corporate social responsibility initiative. Spokesman from the Colombo South Hospital said the bathroom fittings will be used to renovate bathrooms at wards 24 and 25. Macburton Private Limited Managing Director Ramanipon Nambalam and Director CEO Chaminda Amarasinghe handed over the fittings to surgeons at the hospital, Professor Srinath Chandrasekhara and Professor Bhavanta Gamage. That came to you in Business News.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority says that tourism is back on track to cut 50% of the pre-pandemic tourist arrivals figure by the end of the year 2022. Sri Lanka registered close to 200,000 visitors last year, down from the pre-pandemic high of around 2.3 million in 2018. Resurgence in the number of arrivals was seen this year, recording 82,327 visitors in the first month of this year. The authority's chief, Kirmali Fernando, says the rebounds of the industry is prompted with a vaccination drive to convince travellers to return to the island. That was Economic News.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
The Weather Report. The Met Department predicts several spells of showers will occur in the eastern and Nuwara provinces and in Polonnaru and Matale districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the western and Sabaragama provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Matara districts during the evening or night. Fairly heavy showers, about 50 millimeters, can be expected at some places in Ratnapura, Galle and Matara districts. The sea areas off the coast extending from Kankesanture to Colombo via Mannar and Puttalam and the sea areas off the coast extending from Matara to Pothuil via Hambantota will be fairly rough at times. The other sea areas around the island will be moderate. That was the weather report, and now to end this news broadcast, the main points once again. The government extends the visas of distressed Ukrainian tourists. Terrified Ukrainian men, women and children had sought underground safety. The European countries are set to impose flight bans for Russian airlines. The CEB is to issue a circular to formulate electricity-saving tips. The Minister of Energy says 2 more diesel ships are due to arrive in Sri Lanka tomorrow. And on watchlight, permits for the sale of beer and wine at all hotels to boost local tourism. And on news overseas, fighting intensifies across Ukraine. That ends this news broadcast.